everybody, this is The One. I'm Greg Gutfeld. I got one of my favorite people on the podcast today. You often see him on the Greg Gutfeld Show, although he won't admit it in his bio. Joe Machi talks about being part of the prestigious Comic Strip Live, Carolyn's, Stand Up New York, winning all these amazing emerging comics contests, but nothing about being on the GG show, Joe.
That's an old bio, Greg. That is an old bio. I thought I had it updated on my website.
It's okay. You know what? This is something that I totally understand and forgive, because I know you have Late Night with Jimmy Fallon on here. You can't put me on. You cannot put me on your bio because so many people hate Fox that it's like, oh, you were on Fox? Oh, and then you have to go through, no, it's Greg Gutfeld. He's a nice guy. His show's really entertaining. Don't even get involved. Just don't even do it.
I have had that happen.
Yeah,
I have had people say, you work on Fox News.
Yes.
What are you doing?
And what do you say?
I say not everyone has to think like you do, and it doesn't mean they're bad people.
Yeah.
Someone actually tweeted me just the other day. They were going through my tweet favorites.
I know what you're going to say.
And I favored a tweet about the BuzzFeed story on the Mueller investigation being fake. I believe it was a Buck Sexton tweet.
Right.
Someone screenshotted it and tweeted it at me. Now that I know your politics, I can't find you funny anymore. And I don't argue with people on Twitter. I just won't waste my time.
No, you shouldn't. But this is interesting. Twitter, one thing I've always said, it doesn't sell anything. So I don't think it sells books. I've done 9 books, probably 6 or 5 since Twitter started. Has no effect. I don't think it bumps up any number. Like when I promote the GG show, I'll get on Saturday and I'll go, stay tuned, Joe Machi and Terry Shapper. I could promote that show to death. I don't see any correlation. So I do think it's a waste of time. But what you're talking about is this thing I've been talking about on the 5. I call it the media created expanding target of demonization, which means just you being like tangentially linked to something else now makes you guilty.
Right.
So they expand the target. So you know what happened to me? I can't even mention this person because I don't want to put him in the story, but he's a very innovative, edgy musician, right? He works with everybody. And he follows me on Twitter, and I follow him on Twitter. We have conversations now and again. He DMs me, and he goes, you wouldn't believe what happened. And he tells me about how this one of the larger music entities contact him about who he follows. And it was like, so why I noticed you follow Greg Gutfeld, and why is that? And the guy was like, I know him, and what is it? Well, it's just interesting. It's just interesting that you would follow somebody Fox. And so what they were doing is they were expanding the target of demonization. Basically, they were saying, why are you favoriting a Buck Sexton tweet? Like there's something you better. It's a cultural witch hunt, and it's so soft that it doesn't seem like it's a witch hunt, but it actually is pretty bad. It's basically telling you can't. Anytime you step out of the acceptable box, we're coming after you.
Right. Kanye West, who is in an interracial marriage with a transgender mother-in-law, is this closed-minded nut because he likes some of Trump's policies.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. When the person tweeted me, I can't think you're funny because I know your politics.
Yeah.
To me, that's an indictment of this person's closed-mindedness, not mine. It's Hollywood is 99% very liberal.
Right.
And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But I never expected the people say that art is good or bad based on the politics of someone. If you liked me 2 days ago and then you find out I like accurate journalism and that's your problem, I can't do anything with that.
Yeah. It happens even on people who are sympathetic to you. If they agree with you on 90%, it's the 10% they remember. So if I say, I don't know, I'm trying to think. This happened to me recently. If I defended something that I shouldn't have defended, they will go, Greg, I used to like you, but, you're just one of them. Oh, I think it was about Covington because I still felt that, I had said that I thought the kids were a little obnoxious and they were like, That's it. Meanwhile, I completely defended them, like 99%.
Right.
But that you have to be all or nothing. I think a lot of people. I think a lot of it has to do with not being face to face as well.
Yeah, it's like when you're in your car and someone cuts you off and they didn't mean it and you're just furious, but they probably didn't even – they just made a mistake that we've all made when we're driving.
Right, and that person you could have a wonderful conversation with and be best friends sitting next to at a football game. But in that car, you could push a button. If you had the button that says kill, you would push that button. If you saw that person's face and that person cut you off, you would push a button that says kill instantly, and I get away with it.
I wish I could afford that option.
Yeah, it's in all the new BMWs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it's don't read into that joke either, people. My wife just got a BMW, so and it's great. But this is hilarious. You will love this. Do you have a driver's license?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. So you are the most anxious person I know, and I want to talk about that. I just got my driver's permit after 8 or 9 years, 10 years maybe.
Did you drive before or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I let it expire. So I drove for the first time on Saturday, and it was my buddy's car is 20 years old. So it was like going back and dating somebody that you knew in high school. So it fit. But driving a car now, a new car now, would be like me, 54, dating an 18-year-old. I would be terrified. So I get into Elena's driving. We got a BMW X3 or whatever. I get in the car and go, where's the emergency brake? I'm not driving. I can't find it. There's like screens that show you behind the car, and that's making me really nervous. And there's all this crap I've never seen before, and I realize I can't take the driver's test in this car. I have to take a car that's 20 years old.
Right. That makes perfect sense. Sometimes you're looking at the screen, you forget that you have this giant window in the back because you get used to the you get the lane departure warning. You're not looking in your mirror anymore.
Yes.
And
were you upset? Let me ask you this: when you were first on Red Eye, this has got to be about maybe 5 years ago, perhaps.
Yeah.
And you were very nervous, and it was very entertaining, and so I came up with this idea called you were the frightened correspondent.
Yeah.
Now, did you take that as an insult or a compliment?
No, I took it as being grateful because I'm not someone who's whenever I get into a new situation, I can't not be nervous.
Right.
And I had that happen when I was on Last Comic Standing. I had that happen when I started stand-up. And actually, through doing stuff, that's how I become less nervous. Some people, it's just natural or they don't care. And I'm the complete opposite. And I thought, I was so nervous, and that doesn't play well on TV. He'll never ask me back. But then you did, and I was like, this guy's trying to work to find. It's like the good coach who's got the drop back quarterback, and they were running the option before, so he changes the whole offense.
That's what I did.
Yeah,
that's what I did. It's interesting though because I was listening to your podcast when you were on with Michael Malice, and you were talking about anxiety, and I don't hide the fact that I might be more anxious than you. I think, but I tend to maybe hide it a little better. When you were talking about getting over anxious things, it's one of the things that I had Jordan Peterson on this podcast. And selfishly, I wanted to use his brain. And why do I dread? See, I dread doing new things. It's took me 3 years to do the driver's permit test. And when I did it, it was all I had to do was wait in line and take a frickin' oral written exam. But I had built this dread thing up, and I do this with everything. And Jordan Peterson's kind of like his advice is you just flip it. It's like you look like all you have to do is pretend it's an adventure kind of thing. He didn't say it like that, but it was like these things that you dread. If you look at it like it's an adventure, then it's suddenly you're almost looking forward to it. So now that's what I do because I mean you for somebody who's incredibly anxious, you picked a career that would be deeply hindered by anxiety.
Right. And it's also helped me a ton. Just I remember I had a hard time even talking to people I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And now I can do it. I remember one time my friend introduced me to this girl that said I was cute.
Yeah.
And I literally couldn't talk, and I was like 21. And the more you do something, the easier it gets.
Yes. I heard a great story about you. A lot of people have Joe Machi stories. I don't know. Can I tell the story about a girl that was hitting on you?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Do you know what story I'm talking about?
I don't. Happens to me all the time.
Yeah, no. You have. It was. Do you have a girlfriend now?
I do.
Okay, I don't know if this happened recently or a while ago or with a different girlfriend, but you were in a relationship, and some girl was hitting on you hard, and you didn't know what to do, so you ran away. Probably the one thing that all women would want their boyfriends to do, like. Stop talking, leave. You actually ran out of the place and ran home.
I've done that, yeah.
Yeah, you ran home.
Because if you don't know how to handle a situation,
yes,
it's so. You ever have a crazy person talk to you?
Yes.
The best way out of it is to also be crazy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm agreeing. I thought this one was a little out of sorts, so. Yes. I thought, well, this will be interesting. So just sprint in the opposite direction.
You know, it's like you knew there was something wrong with her because she was interested in you. You were going, wow, she's really hitting on me hard. Something's wrong.
I had a lady kept showing up at my comedy shows, and one time I was sitting with my girlfriend, and she sent me a dessert, and I was like, oh, I just have to block her on social media. I can't. But I ate the dessert.
Yes.
Like, it wasn't the dessert's fault. But
no,
yeah.
No. Oh my God!
But the worst part of anxiety, it's mostly my imagination. So probably pretending it's an adventure is a good way to do it.
It's the you told me a story about you thinking that you hit an ATM at a bank, and this is something that I often do, which is creating almost a nonsensical catastrophe in your head that, like I can actually be at an airport and convince myself that. That's not a little old man, but a young person disguised as a little old man who has a bomb.
Right.
I mean, I can create
definitely
completely out of the box scenarios. And you did this. You were convinced that you hit. Didn't you?
I scratched the bricks on the drive-through ATM, which had a million other scratch marks.
Yes.
Then I did my ATM transaction. Then I realized, oh my goodness, I'm going to go to jail for hit and run. So I called the bank and said, oh, I scratched your ATM, and they never even returned the call. But that's what if you're obsessive compulsive, a lot of people think it's just counting.
Yeah, no,
counting the times you wash your hands, but a lot of it is irrational guilt and over responsibility. And your mind inventing these crazy scenarios that are almost certainly unlikely to happen. And the worst part is, when you're doing that, you know that it's nuts. You know that it's not
But you
true.
still do it.
You seek reassurance, like you tell your friends, hey, this lady grabbed my door handle thinking I was her Uber.
Yeah.
It was just something we talked about, and I'm worried she's going to sue me for hit and run.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of car-based ones.
Yeah, I do have like I can lie awake at night, and this is also it hurts these days in this kind of world of television and scalp hunting, that I could like go, oh my God, what did I do? And for like the next 24 hours, I will drive people crazy about this one thing that I think is going to happen, but it never happens.
Right.
It's like I said something. Like I think I have good evidence that people will misconstrue the worst intentions if you work at Fox. But now I do it.
Right.
Now, like even if I didn't mean something, I'm assuming that somebody, like when I said that thing about BMW just 5 minutes ago, I'm going like somebody's going to think that was some kind of weird cryptic joke. You know, I'm like,
it's Bavarian Motor Works. No wonder.
Yes.
It's very there's a lot of contrived outrage.
Yes.
That's not genuine.
Yeah.
And I think people weren't meant to live like that. People
No.
weren't meant to have some stranger on the internet say you have a weird face.
Yes.
And you're just supposed to be okay with that.
Yeah. Yes. It is, but yet I still, it's weird. To you, it would be great if people just stayed in the lanes where they liked you. Like there are people that will actively seek you out and not like your material.
Right.
Why would somebody do like, I'm going to go tell you this? Well, no, why don't you just go over here, find what you like, and leave me the hell out of this? But instead, maybe I do it too. Maybe I try not to read stuff I don't like, even though they say, well, that's you're siloing. It's like, no, I'm just keeping myself from being unhappy.
Right. Right. I was on a comedy show where a comedian told a joke that got some play for being offensive. I didn't even know this comedian was on the comedy show. I don't know the other comic sets. I try not to watch them. Mm-hmm. And someone who wasn't there tweeted me that, Joe Machi, are you okay with this? And I thought to myself, I don't engage Twitter people. Yeah. Because you're not going to convince people on the internet. That's why this whole Russian Cambridge. No one's changing their mind on Twitter. Yes. But I thought to myself, this person wasn't at my show, doesn't know me, and isn't my fan. Uh-huh. And I owe them an explanation.
Screw you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's
just nonsense.
It's like I have to control when this happens to me. Unfortunately, because I work for a corporation, I can't actually – I just have to sit there and, like, swallow it. Unless I've been drinking and it happens at night, then I will just go completely ape on somebody and then wake up the next morning and there's, like, somebody from the company going, about last night, we really prefer if you blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I almost don't remember it. It just happened. Like, it's like – but every now and then it just feels good to – the problem, too – is it's not you can deal with it. It's the people around you or the people that work for you the people that you work for who are spooked by three voices. Right. It's like on Twitter, three voices could be a mob. So they all of a sudden, I mean, they could fire you or maybe they'll ask you to do an apology.
Well, that's the thing with the internet is that people think it's the real world, but it isn't. Mm. If you can catfish someone on the internet and you can't do it face to face, that's not the real world. Yes. And it's bled into the real world where it's actually people are actually taking these people seriously. Someone followed the other day that said their name was Speaker Pelosi, and they had 0 followers. It's not the real Speaker Pelosi, but it really does amplify the crazy or the zealots out there. Yeah.
Do you still work? When I met you, were you working in HR?
Yeah, I was working at HR at Viacom.
Yeah. Do you?
No, I'm full-time a comedian.
Excellent. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That must have felt good.
It did.
Do your parents still alive? Are they around?
Yeah.
So they were probably like, wow, that's pretty impressive. My son makes a living just like that Seinfeld guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes now you don't have to work. And you have a don't you have a special coming out on is it Netflix?
It hasn't been sold yet. It's in the works to be taped. Mm-hmm. Someone agreed to produce it. So I
won't say who it is because I don't like to jinx things.
Right. And some people might not like this person because like we were talking about earlier. Right. Conservatives do it too. I think maybe to a lesser extent overall, but Michelle Wolf's a personal friend of mine.
Yeah.
And when she had the correspondence dinner, a lot, I defended her as being a good person. Yeah. I don't agree with a lot of what she says, but she's a good person. Yeah. I know firsthand she's one of my good friends. She was when I was having some health emergencies in my family, and she was a rock for me. And
that's more important than any political BS.
Right.
It is, and it's scary when the political stuff becomes more important than that. Because I work in a political world where to me it's no different than sports.
Right.
It's like there are some moral issues, but generally it's like if you're going to a Patriots game, the guy next to you could be a left winger. It shouldn't matter.
Right.
You know what? None of that crap should matter.
And I still believe that most people who voted for Trump and most people who voted for Hillary are good people.
Yeah.
They just have some disagreements and this tribalism, even last night, where you can't clap for low minority unemployment.
So my theory, and I'm doing it today on the 5 as well, is that tribalism and conflict is profit based. It's not. I'm not even going to blame the Democrats or the Republicans. I think it's the media that you can't make money off compromise. You got to make it's got to be two fists going at it all the time. I'm doing this and nobody can see it. But I think that's the problem. And it's like I thought that Trump's speech at State of the Union was conciliatory in a lot of places, and there was a lot of stuff that he paid family leave. I'm not even sure I'm for that, but I know that the left is supposed to be for it. And we talked about all sorts of stuff about health and cancer, HIV. He talked about prison reform. He did all of this really compassionate stuff. But the media afterwards were like, he's terrible. It's like, but how did you? It's because you have to have the conflict.
Well, and you were supposed to think that beforehand.
Yes.
You ever see those articles if if people think these Trump quotes are Obama quotes, they like them.
Right.
It's that kind of thing where people are so entrenched that it almost doesn't matter what Trump said.
Mm-hmm.
I read the CNN poll said 76% of people who heard the speech liked it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's up to the pundits to change their minds now by selectively editing it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think what do you think of the state of I hate it's such a general lame question, but it's going somewhere. The state of comedy today, and when you're performing, do you feel pessimistic about the direction, or do you feel that you're losing your parts of your freedom? Do you scratch out jokes that you're about to tell? Or is that basically an exaggeration?
I think I'm cautiously optimistic because when you go do the shows, most of the time, most of the crowd is just there to have a good time.
Right.
And they're laughing and they understand that these aren't statements. I'm in a comedy show. It says it's a comedy show. I'm a comedian. If you're taking that seriously, that's a little bit on you. But I had a conversation with a comedian who I respect very much, and we had a difference of opinion on whether or not some jokes are dangerous. And my feeling is I hear jokes that are negative about every group, but especially of late in New York City, white people.
Yes.
Where it's white people are slave masters and we benefit. And I'm just like, well, I was just born. I mean, it's terrible that happened.
Yeah, it is.
But I feel like, I didn't do that. So this idea of this collective guilt but you know what? I don't go out and hate people.
Yeah.
Because of the jokes that I hear.
Right.
Or I don't if Kevin Hart made a bad joke on Twitter 10 years ago, I heard that joke and I didn't act negatively towards my homosexual friends. And why should other people be held to a less standard? If people do something bad, that's on them.
Yeah.
Not on the comedian telling the joke.
Yeah. And we're in this world now where we've eliminated even the idea of forgiveness. So even Hart had apologized. It didn't matter. It wasn't enough. And I just get the sense that it'll never be enough.
Right. It's almost like the Salem witch trial. I can't remember which one of the people it was, but they said if you apologize, we won't execute you.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was crazy because you still got this person you just said was a witch.
Yeah.
And you're cool with that if they just say, but it's to vindicate the outrage.
Yeah.
And you almost have to say, I'm guilty not only of that, I'm guilty of this original sin of privilege, and I have to acquiesce to say that you have this power over me now.
Yeah. Have you ever been heckled over the subject matter?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I like to try to be fair-minded about jokes, but people are going to take that their own way, which is fair, but where I object is when someone decides for the whole show that this joke can't be had. It's a comedy club, not a college campus.
Yeah. I was I interviewed Andrew Schultz yesterday for Fox Nation, and I was curious about his business plan, which is what he senses is something that I'm vulnerable. If I do something wrong, I can be fired. I have a boss. So he's created a life where he has no boss. So he creates this kind of network of shows on YouTube, and he has his own following. That way he's not vulnerable to the mob. And I noticed that about him, and I'm thinking, is that the wave? Is that the only solution here is for a Joe Machi to create his own place so that he doesn't have to serve any masters who might fire him or worry that a car company would go to your boss and say we're dropping ads, and then you lose your gig on Netflix or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what Andrew's done is he taped a special, couldn't sell it, and decided to chop it up and put it on YouTube.
Yeah,
but as we've seen, YouTube can take people off.
Yes, that's true.
You're always, in a sense, have to worry about the mob now because that mob can go tell the venue not to book you,
right?
And
that happens.
People collapse.
Yeah.
It's easier to not have people say Andrew Schultz thinks dangerous thoughts and you're a white supremacist. Not that anyone said that about Andrew, but that term has been broadly overused of late. I think it's great that he doesn't have to worry about being fired, but there's other ways that mob can interfere with your livelihood.
That is true. Speaking of livelihood, where can people find you next? If they want to see you,
I'm performing at Youngstown, Ohio at Mojo's this coming weekend. Then I got Houston at the Joke Joint the following weekend, St. Louis, Missouri the weekend after that. You can find all my dates at joemachi.com. It's spelled M-A-C-H-I.
Yeah. Do you like touring?
I love the shows. I hate the flights.
Yeah. Do you have a fear of flying, or are you just a normal flyer?
I'm a normal flyer. It's the social aspect of flying.
I love it.
The other day when that lady was incredibly rude to the two people.
Yeah, in between two overweight people or something like that? Yes.
Yeah. No one was blaming the airlines for that, and they should be, because you can't – I'm not even a big guy, and my shoulders are wider than the 17 inches they give you. And they allowed all this consolidation in the airline industry, but they forgot to say if we're going to allow some airports to be dominated by one carrier, you have to put some regulation in place so they don't pull people off flights and beat the crap out of them.
Yeah. There seems like a story like that every week. And again, social media. If you have a bad day, social media will make it worse.
Yes. Yeah.
Never have a bad day, Joe, because you don't deserve a bad day.
Don't say anything that doesn't fit with the orthodoxy.
Yes.
And you'll be okay.
There you go.
Although that orthodoxy might be changed 10 years later, so.
Exactly. Okay, last question then. Do you think anything now, 20 years from now, see, I've been talking about this with friends. I think my theory is servitude will be seen as bizarre, because we will have robots doing everything in 50 years, and people go, when you read people used to clean up after other people. People used to drive other people. I'm wondering if servitude is the thing that's going to be the shame of our generation. I don't know.
I don't know either. It's hard to predict.
Yes. Could it be maybe what if they decide that stand-up comedy is somebody would stand up on stage and insult different types of actions and people.
Right. And I hope people remember the context of the times, because when I do stand-up, you're rearranging logic to get a laugh. It's not necessarily ideas I always agree with. It's ideas I agree with myself that are funny and hopefully can get the crowd to meet me halfway. And that's the problem with judging people in the past by today's standards.
It's a strange new world, Joe.
RCA Victor Television. One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
agree with all the obstacles and with all the enemies who are between me and...